Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the new moon in Cancer that happens on the 10th of July 2021. Thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. The chart you see next to me here, that's a snapshot of the sky at the moment this new moon happens. And I'm going to give you a rundown of the chart to see what energy it brings up and how you can use that to your advantage. So this new moon happens at 16 minutes past 2 in the morning, and that's based on Europe time. If you're in North America, South America, or Hawaii, this is going to happen in the evening of the 9th of July. If you're east of Europe, it happens later on in the day. It's a gradual process though, so don't get too hung up on the exact minute of when this is going to occur. So the new moon in itself is when the sun and moon conjunct one another and the moon becomes pitch black. And for the moon, that's kind of a timeout. It's a period of stillness and reflection, going within and saying, all right, before I start my next 28-day cycle, I'm going to look at what's important to me, what I'm feeling, what has happened in the past, how I can reflect on that, make meaning from it, and then I can take informed action moving forward. This new moon is also, I would say this is the mother of all introspective new moons, because there are a lot of things that really put the focus very firmly on the inner world, on what's going on with you internally. And it really is very uninterested in your circumstances and what's going on externally. And the first of those factors is that it's a new moon in Cancer. Cancer is the fourth sign of the zodiac. It's a water sign, so it's interested in feelings and spirituality and love. And it has to do with the domestic sphere of your life, your family, love, how you are loved and how you receive love, how you feel positioned in your everyday experience, whether you feel secure and safe, and whether your emotions are working with you or against you. Then we've got the new moon. It happens at 18 degrees. 1 and 8 is 9. And 9 in numerology is about spirituality and completion. In the tarot, the ninth card of the major arcana is the Hermit, and the Hermit has this lantern and he's trying to understand the self. And then the final thing is that the moon actually rules Cancer. The moon is about what makes you feel comfortable and at ease, and it's the home and what you can rely on in your life. And in Cancer, the sign of the home, there's really nothing that distracts it from looking very clearly at your feelings, where you're at in life, whether you're happy, whether you're unhappy, satisfied or dissatisfied. And really, it's almost like taking a magnifying lens and looking at yourself and saying, all right, what is going on for you? So if you don't like to feel your feelings, if you're in a spot in your life that's difficult, then this new moon is really going to show that to you. And it can often bring up a lot of emotions. It can be very uncomfortable. And if there's something missing in the sense of family or love or spirituality, it really shows you that that part of your life needs some extra work. And whenever we receive messages like that, it's not super comfortable. And because these are such personal themes, this isn't work, or this isn't like, have you got another pair of sneakers in your cupboard? This is really like, do you feel loved in life? Do you feel secure? Do you feel like people care about you? Do you feel a sense of spiritual connection? And if the answer is no, it's like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do about that? I can't force other people to love me. So it can really create a huge sense of dissatisfaction, and it can bring up very challenging feelings. So just kind of brace yourself. If you are someone who doesn't have it all figured out just yet, I mean, who does really? But some people find it very easy to maintain loving relationships, and that's not their problem. That's not the area of their life where they struggle. People who don't have that as an issue, they're going to find this very nurturing and soothing, because it's like, oh yes, I feel the love. It's wonderful. So that isn't going to be so challenging for them. But if you are someone who struggles with a sense of home, where do I belong? How do I love other people? What makes me feel secure in life? And if that really is the core issue of what you're going through right now, then this moon is really going to force you to look at that very clearly and to say, okay, this isn't quite right. So yes, it's not comfortable, it's not enjoyable, but on the plus side, when you're forced to look at something like this, you can't be in denial anymore. You can actually see what's going on there for you, and that then inspires and motivates you to do something about it. So anyone who feels like they're on their own or they're isolated, feel those difficult feelings without kind of numbing yourself out or distracting yourself, and really see what you get from this new moon, because it's going to give you really good guidance as what you can do to change. So we've got that. What I was thinking about a lot before I started to do this video is the actual glyph of Cancer. You've got these two squiggles that are very symmetrical, and that kind of create this symbol for the crab. The crab also, if you split that in half, very symmetrical. But the sense I got was that this isn't, well, it is symmetrical, but it creates some illusion for you. So on the one hand, you focus on what's going on internally, and you have this ability to tap into your intuition and your feelings. But on the other hand, it's going to create illusions for you in the real world, and you look at things that don't particularly work and they become much more important than they would be at other times. So if you look at the moon card in the tarot, that's a card that says the path gets scary because you have a certain way of looking at it. It's infused with your own fears and anxieties. It's kind of this existential angst. And that's the symmetry that I'm getting here. The opening up of the inner world, that's great. And that really allows you to tap into what's going on for you. But then on the flip side of that, the other side of the coin, is that the real world seems really frightening. And it seems like you can't do anything about it. So the inner opens up and the outer closes down. So it's very important during this new moon to look at what's important to you moving ahead, but not to be like an analyst and to do a stock take of where you're at in life and whether that's good enough or not good enough. Because if you feel isolated and alone, then it's going to be like, oh, okay, I've really failed in life and I'm by myself and there's nothing I can do about it. Because this isn't a path at midday during the sun where it's like, oh, well, if I don't have this in my life, I'll meet someone on the path in a few minutes. Everything's going to be great. It's the middle of the night. You're alone. No one else is around. And if things aren't perfect right now, they never will be perfect. And that's really off-putting, right? So try not to compare yourself to other people. Try not to see your life as set in stone, like nothing is ever going to change. And, it's that sense when nothing is going on and there's an expectation that you wave a magic wand and that you create these amazing things. That's really the sense that I get here with this new moon, because the stillness is so absolute. It's kind of like, well, if something is missing, then that's never going to be filled. And that can really send you into the abyss of self-pity and saying, okay, well, this is the final judgment here of my life, of my home life and my relationships. And if they don't work now, they never will. So try not to think in absolute terms like that, because this new moon, like I said, with all those influences, like the moon being in the sign that it rules and the number 9 and it being a new moon in itself, it can feel like it's too much of a good thing. So it's rather than meditating for 20 minutes, it's meditating for 6 hours and becoming completely disconnected from the real world. Watch out for illusions. Watch out for projection. Comparing your inner life with other people's external experience. So going on Instagram, if you don't feel good about the way you look, and then going on the gram and seeing all the Facetune pictures and all the painted on abs, and then comparing yourself to something which is not real and unattainable, that's going to make you feel like there's something missing and lacking. So try and gather those things that make you feel like you've got enough and like you've achieved something, and maybe even make a list of how far you've come. Because you have come a long way, you do invest in yourself, and it's these kind of abyss moments that kind of create this emotional desert for us, and it's like, well, wow, I've still got such a long way to go, and it can be really discouraging. The plus side, I would focus on the creative side of things, like if you're a writer or a composer or artist or a music therapist or something like that, you're really going to be able to tap into the creative side of you and you can work independently. And by filling that hole through some sort of creative or spiritual process, that's going to make you feel good. Looking outside and seeing where the gap is between what you would like to happen and what actually is, or what you feel to be true, that's going to be problematic. So it's trying to bridge the gap between lack mentality and tapping into an abundance mentality. Look at what you've got that works in your life already, that makes you feel rooted and loved and grounded and connected. Ignore those things which seem to make you feel like you haven't got certain things, which make you feel desperate and alone and full of fear. Okay, so I mean, you can tell by that it's a lot. So emotionally, it's kind of like doing emotional gymnastics to navigate through this, and that's why it's not my favorite thing. I mean, if everything is hunky-dory, like I said, then hooray. I can love freely, and I can stay in bed with my partner, and we can have a good time and really enjoy the intimacy. But if that isn't there in life, then the trick is not to see that as a moral failing or as a personal judgment on you. Okay, so the new moon in itself then opposes Pluto at 25 degrees in Capricorn, and that's very interesting because Pluto is the phoenix rising from the ashes, it's transformation and change. It's in the sign of Capricorn, the worker, at 25 degrees, which is 7, the mind and creativity. And that really shows you what you could have done in this absolutist way. So I am sitting here by myself, but I had all these opportunities to have great relationships or to meditate and to connect spiritually or to create all this wonderful art. And look, I haven't done it. Boo-hoo. So try not to look at things from the perspective of this is where I'm at in life and this is the end point, because this new moon in Cancer makes you forget that you've still got a lot of life to live. And it looks at things in a really absolute black and white way. And it says, if you haven't done it by the 10th of July, then you're not going to do it. And that's not true, because you will have other days in your life. You have a future ahead of you. The better way to look at Pluto in Capricorn with this opposition is to say, what have I got right now? How can I get creative and use my connection to my own feelings and my intuition to determine what I'm going to do about this in future? How am I going to work to change my circumstances in a constructive, productive way? So I'm not going to dwell on the fact that things aren't ideal now. I'm going to look at what can I do to change this job or the way I work or how I live. I'm not going to say I live in a dump, therefore I must have failed. It's really too harsh, too black and white. And it's the opposite of being caring and nurturing towards yourself, which is what Cancer is all about. It's about parenting those you love. And because I feel it's too much of a good thing, it can really become abusive. And it's like, well, if you're not loved, then who are you really? And that's a nightmare. So you don't want to go there. Be productive and support yourself deliberately. So be kind to yourself. And if there are difficult feelings and emotions, then say, do you know what? I'm going to support you to get through these. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy. It means that this is challenging and I'm going to be there for you to work with these things. Ultimately, if you look at it in an objective way, a feeling of dissatisfaction or like things aren't going your way is ultimately just a way of identifying that you can make changes in your life and that things don't quite suit you right now and that you can make an effort to change them. I mean, that's it. If you're not satisfied with your body, then rather than sitting there and hating yourself over it, it's going to be much better to do something like to change the way you exercise or to change your diet or to go see someone to make a change in something that you're powerless over but that you can't quite accept. You know, it's about getting realistic and practical and saying, this doesn't suit me, so I'm going to adapt it in future. So with Pluto being life and death, night and day, in Capricorn, it really allows you to identify beyond any reasonable doubt what you enjoy about your life and the way it looks on a day-to-day basis and what you do enjoy. And because you have the creativity to think ahead, use that to say, okay, these are the changes I'm going to make. I'm not going to imagine this perfect version of myself that I haven't attained just yet. I'm going to take that out of the past, I'm going to put it in the future, and I'm going to continue to work towards it rather than to feel again like this is the end and this is the absolute point of judgment. And anyway, if you ask yourself who's doing the judging, it's you. My life isn't enough. I don't feel connected. Da 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 da. So I think the biggest message, which is kind of interesting because it's Cancer and that's not usually what's associated with Cancer, is to lay off and to treat yourself like you would your own child, rather than being an intolerant head teacher who is judging you at the final exam point. And that's really the dichotomy of this new moon in Cancer, I feel. Okay, then we've got a sesqui square with Jupiter at 1 degrees in Pisces. And that's nice because Jupiter, when it's in Cancer, is exalted. So it's very comfortable in that sign. It's at 1 degree, which is about the pioneer and taking charge of things, similar to the cardinal sign Cancer. So I do have control over this. I can alter the way I think and feel by taking some steps, some practical steps. It's in Pisces, so it opens up the intuition and it really allows you to, again, really clearly understand what works for you and what doesn't work for you and what's lacking and what isn't lacking. This is the saving grace to anyone who feels unloved or alone or isolated, because Jupiter in Pisces makes the spiritual realm so big that even if you feel like you're the least spiritual person you've ever met, if you're a confirmed atheist, then that feeling of something that loves you is so big and almost tangible that you can tap into it. It's really interesting because if religion or spirituality or something like that has been something that's caused you pain in life because you haven't followed the rules or you haven't been able to kind of get your head around it, Jupiter at 1 degrees in Pisces, sesqui squaring this new moon in Cancer, takes you out of the head space and into the heart space. And it means that spirituality becomes a natural feeling. It becomes an experience that you're naturally able to tune into on this day without all the rules and without all the blocks that usually make it inaccessible to you. So this is a great time because it's so extreme, because it's too much of a good thing. It's really good for anyone who struggles with anything spiritual and people who really have no interest in anything spiritual and see it as a load of nonsense. You know, like if you've made an extreme judgment on that side of life, you'll be able to turn that around and just to realize, wow, this isn't about, you know, reading a chapter in a book. This is about feeling that something out there that's bigger and that's lucky and that wants me to succeed in life has my back. And I feel that somehow. I feel it. And therefore, I'm not at the end of the road. There is a future ahead of me. And if I work in conjunction with this good feeling and this investment in myself, then I will be able to change things. So I don't have to despair and I don't have to sit here and weep and feel like everything has gone wrong. And again, it's about becoming your own parent. It's about becoming your own best friend and saying, you know, first of all, look at everything that you've done. And let's work together to make the future better and to adapt it so that you're happy with it and that you don't have to look outside of yourself and compare yourself. Then we've got the new moon forming a square with Chiron in Aries at 12 degrees. Chiron is the wounded healer. In Aries, again, Aries is a cardinal sign, so it's about I lead, I take charge of this. 12 is communication and new beginnings. And this is also a lovely kind of saving grace because all these connections that the new moon makes, Pluto, Jupiter, Chiron, it's really about don't see things as absolute. Take the initiative with Chiron in Aries here to paint a picture of what you want things to look like and then use your energy to pursue those things in a practical way and heal this feeling that you've got. You don't have to sit in it. You're not doomed to feel negative. You're actually able to turn this around and to heal it into something that motivates you to try again in future and to live the kind of life that you want to live. Being a human being means that you're unhealed. Everyone has issues. And whether it's love or it's work or it's the home or it's career or colleagues or spirituality or the self or money or whatever it is, the point is to look at the, well, as far as I know, not that I'm an expert, but I really feel that the point is not to sit there and to lick your wounds and to say, oh, haven't I been hard done by? It's to try and heal those wounds so that you get into a position in your life where you're satisfied. Someone else may not enjoy your ideal life. You know, your idea of heaven may be someone else's idea of hell. But the point is to reduce the inner pain and the inner sense of lack so that you're in a position where you're like, I've got myself here, I can be proud of that, and I enjoy this. And that's what this new moon is trying to get you to focus on, and to plant those seeds and to say, I'm not going to cry over my loneliness. I'm actually going to join a volleyball club, or I'm going to go to a book club, or next time I'm walking by the river, I'm going to chat to a couple of people, or I'm going to go to a 12-step meeting, or whatever it is. It gives you concrete, practical guidance as to how you can heal things which cause you problems so that you don't have to experience them in future, and that your life doesn't seem so absolute. Okay, so we've got the new moon forming this square with Chiron, and those are the only aspects it makes with Chiron, Jupiter, and Pluto. So really your circumstances are malleable and you can change them around. Jupiter fills you with love for yourself, and it allows you to land on the side of self-love rather than self-judgment. And Chiron encourages you to heal. I often look at Chiron like a cut in your skin. When you've got a wound there, it's very painful and it's like, I'm suffering. But once that wound heals and you've got a scar there, that scar tissue is much stronger than the skin around it. And the actual wound can become one of your strongest characteristics that allows you to jump off into better things, because you know what it's like to suffer. You've got compassion for yourself. You haven't let it overwhelm you. You've healed, and it makes you stronger. Yeah. Okay, then we've got some other things happening in the chart which are kind of interesting. The first thing that my attention was drawn to is Venus and Mars in Leo. They don't conjunct or work with the moon in any way, they're separate, but the two of them conjunct each other. Venus is the planet of love and beauty and creativity. In Leo, she wants to express and to be seen, but she's also quite fragile. And Mars is at 18 degrees in Leo, and that's really the desire to do something on your own and to fire yourself up. And when you put the male and female together, you usually get a new beginning. You get new life in some sort of a way. So your lack of acceptance, I feel, is actually a good thing, because the overbearing emotional nature of this new moon is going to say, accept that this is not worked. End of. But Venus and Mars are going to say, hey, there are actually other ways of doing this, and there is a future ahead of you. Tap into that and enjoy the process and heal. Do something about it. Life can be amazing. Here's a taste. Go for it. So it's like having the hope that things can be better. We've got those two opposing Saturn in Aquarius at 11 degrees. So this is such an inner process that it's going to be very unlikely that someone is able to pull you out of this and say, what are you talking about? You're so amazing. You're so wonderful. Like, why are you so glum and why are you down on yourself? You'll be like, yeah, that's just you thinking, but that's because you're my aunt or my best friend and you love me. I don't believe a word you're saying. It's that kind of rejection of genuine compliments as flattery because you have an agenda. So don't try and look for other people to kind of prop you up or to pull you out of this. You're not going to have much tolerance for it because it seems fake. We've got Neptune at 23 degrees in Pisces near Chiron. They don't conjunct each other, but it's near there. And the biggest healing factor is this hope that things can be better, but also being able to tap into the feeling of love via spirituality, even if you've completely rejected any kind of faith. Uranus is at 14 degrees in Taurus, and this pain is ultimately what can set you free, because the way the blockage and the pain is so extreme, you can really turn that around and have a really different outcome at the end. It's really it's a big challenge because I don't know about you, but I've always struggled to feel my feelings, and I've always tried to manage my own feelings so that I can get through the day, you know. And I don't want to feel all the negative things in life. And I've really done myself a disservice with that in the past, because those negative feelings were prompts for me to change. And I missed that. I was just like, I don't want the bad feelings. And I missed the forest for the trees. And then I'd numb myself out with booze or pills or whatever it was. And it just elongated the whole process, because rather than changing, all I was doing is ignoring the message. And I mean, it's not the kind of thing any of us want to hear. And it's not what society trains us for. It's like, yeah, feel bad because it'll motivate you. It doesn't, we're not taught that. But really, that's what this new moon says. It's like, it's okay to feel rubbishy sometimes, because it's actually going to inspire you to change and to do things differently. Now, the rising sign of this chart is Gemini, 23 degrees. And that, again, like Venus and Mars, gives you this little inkling that you're free to choose the kind of life that you want to live. And that's interesting, because if your big problem is you don't love yourself because you're not happy with your appearance, then this sense that, hey, I'm free to look the way I want to look is really, it seems kind of, oh, big word coming out, pernicious, because it's like, well, I can't change my appearance completely. But what the rising in Gemini says, you're free to change your mind around the way you see yourself. So one, in the real world, you can make changes which will elevate the whole thing a little bit. But then in a year or two, you may not be aware of this, but the rising is giving you an inkling that this may be the case, that in a year or two, the things that you didn't like about yourself, miraculously, you may see differently in a year or two. So don't be so sure of yourself. And again, don't see things as so absolute. Like the cheekbones that you don't like this year, you might actually like next year. There are a number of things which can change that. It's a public perception, or what's on trend, or the way you see yourself, or the way your body naturally changes, the way you couldn't see coming. You know, there are a number of things which are real, which you ought to take into account, because you don't know everything about yourself, and this certainty and this absolute judgment of yourself is not appropriate. Mercury is at 27 degrees in Gemini. Again, we've got a 9, 2 and 7 is 9. Mercury is the communication planet, and it's the chart ruler of this chart, because the rising is Gemini. Mercury rules Gemini. So Mercury is really important in this, and it rules, I'm saying it too often, but Mercury rules Gemini, and it's the sign that it's in at 9 degrees. It's like the hermit with his little lantern, actually not just being able to shine the light on it, but kind of opening the whole of the inner world and flooding it with light. You really get it. And that's why it's important to embrace those negative feelings, because they're meaningful. And it's something that's causing you pain for a reason. You can do something about it so you can heal that pain. Heal your pain, heal your pain, heal your pain. We love that. Okay. I just want to cry during a new moon in Cancer. I'm just like, why? But it does get easier. And when you do make changes, then it's easier to change the other things that are still left. It's a gradual process of getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's what this is. Okay, so that's pretty much what's going on in the chart. Strongest element on the day is air, and it's followed by water. So we've got a nice balance between male and female. Air is a masculine element, water is feminine. So you receive the love, and that will help you to change your thinking and to take charge of your thinking and to say, hey, I have some control over this. Just because I think it doesn't make it true. I can look at it a different way. And we've got the 4th and the 5th house and the 7th house. They're kind of empty. And Cancer rules the 4th house in the traditional chart, the family. And that's why, again, it's so extreme. If something is missing, it feels completely overpowering, but don't let that put you off. It's just a very strong message that you can change things in that area of your life. And it's not an absolute judgment. I really think that's the thing to watch out for, that you don't see these negative emotions as absolutes and finger pointing at you, as in you haven't done, you haven't achieved. And that's it. Yep. Well, we do have a triangle of harmony, which is a term I came up with. It's a trine and two sextiles on top of that trine between Chiron in Aries, the South Node in Sag, and then your Saturn in Aquarius. And it's really looking at your personal experience of your life and letting that teach you, rather than looking to other people to make it okay for you. So you're an independent unit capable of self-care and self-healing. We've got a T-square between Mars and Venus in Leo, Uranus in Taurus, and Saturn in Aquarius. So again, it's your personal process that's much more important, and that's actually able to affect real change. Don't look for mentors or teachers or people who put a plaster on it and say, there, everything's going to be okay. You can do that for yourself. So if there is friction between, do I just try and find the answer through some sort of religion or way of looking at my life, someone who says everything's going to be all right, or do I do the hard inner work? Then please do the hard inner work, because that's actually going to have a positive outcome for you, whereas the other stuff promises a lot but is going to deliver very little, because you're just not going to believe it. If you don't believe it, you can't use it. Okay. Yeah, that's it. So that's the new moon in Cancer. Fun and games all round. Excuse me. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you would like a personal reading with me, then please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on book your reading to audio reading with me. In my personal readings, I use astrology. And the way I look at this chart, I do the same thing with your chart. So I take your place of birth, your date of birth, and your time of birth. And that gives me a chart like this one. I then analyze the chart, and it really tells me very much about you, your natural default setting, what your vocational aptitudes are, your life purpose, what makes you feel alive and fulfilled, where you feel easy and comfortable. I look at the progress chart to see how you've changed over time and whether you're on track or not. And then I look at transits to see what's coming up in future, and things like Saturn return, and really big events in your life, what's coming up in terms of your work and your love life, and when is a good time to move or to sell the manuscript or to make changes to other areas of your life. And also I use astrocartography to look at different parts of the world and how they're going to influence you. So if you have any questions or you want me to look at your chart, then please do get in touch for a personal reading via my website, gregoryscott.com. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share the video online. Have a fabulous time, and I'll speak to you for the daily tarot readings that I do on this channel. The weekly horoscopes, I go through each day and I see what the energy is like. Check that out if you're trying to navigate the days ahead. I really like doing those. And I also do little personal videos on, my life and stuff. So if you're interested in that, that's on Instagram, Gregory Scott 444. Check it out. And then, check out the channel. There's quite a lot of things to watch and to have a look at. So have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon. All the best.